Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my matcha finds on Amazon series. Today, this is part 3 and we have a couple of good ones and we also have a couple of not so good ones. So I will be giving you guys my recommendations for which ones you should try next, but also which ones to maybe avoid. So let's get right into it. I have my notes here on my phone just so I don't forget everything. There are a couple that aren't here with me because I finished it. I forgot to save the tin. I always forget, so I will do that next time. Let's just start with the one that is not here. The first one is Mojo Matcha. This one has been recommended to me by you guys a lot of times. I will see comments asking me to review this one, and I'm so glad you guys told me to, because this is now one of my favorite finds on Amazon. So this one is from the Samidori blend, and usually blends from there I really love because typically they taste very nutty and have like notes of that. So I really enjoy matcha blends from that cultivar, and Mojo Matcha is from that. So this one, like I said, it's nutty, it was creamy. It is a lighter matcha. It's definitely not as bold, I would say, in like the matcha richness, but it has a perfect amount of flavor and it's nutty, it's light, it has a great green color. I would say this one is more on the umami side and more on the nuttiness side. So a little bit more savory, but not salty. It's more of like that nutty umami that you experience in like a peanut butter or kinako. If you wanted to get into like a nutty matcha and haven't really experimented too much with that taste, I would say Mojo Matcha is a great place to start because it is nutty, but it's not super heavy or rich in that note. It just has like the perfect amount where it's detectable, but also not where it's like the only like note that you taste in the matcha. So I think that'd be a very good beginner starter matcha for somebody looking to get into like a nutty matcha. Let's review this Akira matcha from Matcha Konomi. This is another one that is highly requested by you guys to review. And again, I'm glad that you guys recommended it because this is another solid find on Amazon. As a sucha, this one had notes of grassiness, there was slight bitterness to it, but then ended on a creamier note. And as a latte, I experienced it to be very refreshing, a good balance of the bitterness and the creaminess, and a hint of the fresh grassiness coming through. And for me, I don't prefer vegetal matchas, like grassy matchas. This one I actually really enjoyed it. Again, like I feel like grassiness like again holds such like a weight in the matcha community where they hear grassy and they're like, it's bad, it shouldn't taste like grass, like it shouldn't taste or similar to like grass. But like if you think about the way that matcha is made and also like where matcha comes from, it kind of makes sense that it would taste like grass, you know? So it's not a bad thing. Like grassiness is not a bad thing. It's just a note. It's just a different type of note. Like nuttiness is a note, so is grassiness. So if you do like a vegetal matcha and you like grassiness a little bit more like in your matchas, this one is such a good one for that because the matcha powder itself too is really high quality. I enjoyed it, and I typically don't like a vegetal matcha, but if I were to recommend one in that area, I think this is a good place to start. Okay, let's talk about this Kirishima matcha. This one, nobody recommended to me, but I found it on Amazon and it looked intriguing to me, so I wanted to try it. This matcha is from Kagoshima, and guys, this one is like a good example of bitterness tasting so good in matcha. This is a great example. And I actually had some of you guys recommend, or some of you guys request me to give you some recommendations on bitter matchas because see, you guys know bitter is not a bad thing. So this is definitely a recommendation from me if you want a bitter matcha. But again, it's not bitter to the point where it's overpowering. Like this does bitterness the right way. And I think matchas can be really bitter, and we'll talk about that soon. but there can be matchas that do bitterness the right way, and I think that's what you need to find, is the right amount of bitterness. And this is a perfect example of that, where it complements the matcha so well, and it makes the matcha taste so much more well-rounded, and it gives you that nice punch in a matcha that I really like tasting. Because sometimes, like, when you have really smooth matchas, like, of course it's really enjoyable, but sometimes you want like that little reminder that you're drinking matcha, if that makes sense. Like, I like to taste like notes of like punchiness and like a kick of that matcha taste, because it reminds me like, oh yeah, this is matcha, you know, and it's not just milk. So I really appreciate that this is what it gave me in the powder, like that nice kick of bitterness to it. But also with like the bitterness that I experienced, I also had notes of like nuttiness to it and some creaminess in it. Although I will say, like, it's not as prominent. The notes, it's very subtle, but I would recommend drinking this as a latte versus as a yusucha, because I tried it both ways, and personally, I didn't really like it too much as a yusucha, but I feel like as a latte, the matcha powder being like mixed with the milk helped tame the bitterness taste to like the perfect medium that I like it. So I really enjoyed it as a latte, so I probably wouldn't recommend it as a yusucha if you're kind of thinking that your taste would be similar to mine. So I really liked it as a latte, and that's how I drink it most of the time anyway, so I loved that. Okay, and now we are gonna talk about the one that I'm not gonna recommend, and it is this Soar Organics matcha. And yeah, unfortunately, it was not for me. This one was really, really, really bitter, where that's the only thing that I could taste, and it was so bitter when I tried it that it went up my nose and like burned it and made it itchy because of like how overpowering it was. So it was just, and the texture of it was really gritty and grainy, like it didn't have a good texture to it. Drinking it as a yusucha was really hard because of, one, the texture, but also two, like the bitterness component to it, where it was just too much. And even as a latte, the matcha taste kind of disappeared, and all you get is just like bitterness and also like the grainy sensation. So I felt like I wasn't really drinking matcha. Like, there was no like matcha in the room with me when I was drinking that. So unfortunately, that one was just not what I liked. And again, this is just my opinion. You may really enjoy this blend, and that's totally fine. I'm just sharing because that's the way I've experienced this matcha and I tasted from this matcha. So that would be my recommendation, is not to get this one. It's also, yeah, $22.90 for 30 grams. So it's not exactly cheap. I would say it is on the cheaper side of matcha, but again, that's $22 you can save if that is something that you are like, okay, I will not enjoy that. But again, this is my opinion. If you like it, then that's totally fine. Those were all the powders that I currently have. And for my recommendations and my favorites, I will say my overall favorite and top recommendation is Mojo Matcha for sure. Such a good quality matcha with nuttiness, creaminess, smoothness to it. You can drink it as a yusucha, you can drink it as a latte, whichever way you prefer. It's delicious. Definitely worth your money. For those of you guys who like vegetal matchas, I would definitely recommend this Akira matcha by Matcha Konomi. Very refreshing, very vegetal in the best way. And then for those of you guys who want a more bitter forward matcha, this Kirishima matcha I would recommend for you guys. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this was helpful for you guys to see which matcha to buy next. And as always, I'm doing my research for which ones to try next for you guys to review. And you can always leave your suggestions in the comments below and I will check them out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.